Rawabi is a $1.4 billion project being built to house over 25,000 people after its first phase of construction. The first stage plans to build 5,000 housing units spread across 22 neighborhoods. Subsequent construction phases are projected to bring the city's population to 40,000 people. As of 2017, there are roughly 3,000 residents currently living there, and 3 of the 22 neighborhoods are finished. The Rawabi City project operates via a strategic partnership between 3 key actors. The foremost player in the development is Bashar Masri, a Palestinian-American real estate developer who is not only leading the construction process but is personally motivated by his desire to establish a distinct Palestinian state for his people. Masri feels an obligation to his national identity on which his desire to build Rawabi is rooted. He has the resources and knowledge required to build a new city, and because no one else is making any moves to build a new state for the Palestinians, he's committing a revolutionary act with a raised wallet, and declares that Rawabi is what a new Palestinian state could look like if Israel and Palestine were to see common ground rather than conflict. The second key actor is Masr International, founded by Masri and headquartered in Ramallah, which specializes in real estate development, financial and investment services, and corporate business development in the Middle East, North Africa, and Eastern Europe. Its investment strategy focuses on emerging markets and capitalizes on opportunities that hold prospects for long-term growth, making Rawabi an ideal business venture. Masri aspires for Rawabi to become a normal place for Palestinians to live as freely as Israelis do in Jerusalem, arguing that they deserve to live like normal people until the situation is normal. It's a new city built by Palestinians for Palestinians, but is specifically marketed towards the Palestinian middle class. Features of the city that display targeting of this specific demographic include the Rawabi English Academy, a mosque, plans for a church for the 10% that are Palestinian Christian, a 15,000-seat amphitheater where international artists have performed, and a shopping center. Investors in the Q Center hope that by carrying international brands, it will attract the international community, investment from IT companies, and wealthy Palestinians who often go to Jordan to shop, which will all in turn strengthen the Palestinian economy. The third key player and the main benefactor of the project is the state of Qatar. In 2008, Beatty Real Estate Investment Company, a subsidiary of Masr International, valued the project at $800 million, thus prompting the real estate investment company, Qatari DR, to put up 2/3 of the money. However, although the oil-rich emirate officially forged a partnership with Masr International, its commitment wavers because until there's peace in the region, there's little prospect for profit.
In order to explain the factors driving the creation of Rawabi Palestine, it is important to investigate the history of the region and recognize the conflict that continues to take place. The Israel-Palestine conflict, which has been ongoing since the late 19th century, has its roots in ethnic nationalist movements with religious undertones. Within the context of a two-state solution, the map has constantly shifted, with Israel controlling an increasingly large amount of territory. Even within the Palestinian West Bank, 126 Israeli settlements have been constructed, despite being illegal under international law, and this has further weakened Palestinian sovereignty, and the region has been occupied for over 50 years. Plopped down in the middle of this hornet's nest, Rawabi is, quote-unquote, the counter-narrative in the forever conflict in which Palestinians are often portrayed as terrorist or victim, living in refugee camps or dusty villages. According to the developer of Rawabi, who is invested in the project not only to make money, but also out of a sense of responsibility to his fellow citizens, we will live like normal people until the situation is normal. Rawabi, then, is perhaps a model of what a new Palestinian state could look like. The city's location on the top of a hill, Rawabi means hill in Arabic, is symbolic. The city's residents have an excellent view of the surrounding region and can keep a watchful eye. It is also planned to be larger than almost all of the Israeli settlements, with a projected population of 40,000 people. In terms of transnational themes, Rawabi does emulate successful models of Zionist state building in the sense that architectural styles, layout, and concepts do resemble those of Israeli settlements. In a sense, Rawabi is the first Palestinian settlement. However, Rawabi also aims to connect with a more global, consumerist neoliberalism, which is equated in this case with modernization and stability. This is cultivated through marketing of the city towards a professional-minded middle class, and the prominent featuring of an open-air mall with multinational chain stores.
Now we will look at the comparison between Ramallah and Rawabi, both located within Palestine. Ramallah is well known for being the West Bank's cultural and political center. Historically a small Christian town, the city's outlook is both traditional, keeping the image of an old-fashioned Arab market town, and also new, as the outdated buildings are being rebuilt. In terms of the city design, the Palestine cities from of old are known as unplanned cities, where no architect was employed and therefore there were no strictly planned framework that was put into effect. They are called natural cities and have closely built centers and houses sharing walls and the narrow alleyways. Ramallah also followed this vernacular design, having a dense and narrow environment. On the other hand, Rawabi is a new green satellite city located 9 kilometers from Ramallah and is the first planned city in Palestine. Radically moving away from the traditional vernacular design, Rawabi is planned to be built using modern design, having uniform and high-rise buildings. This is to get rid of the common misconception that all Middle Eastern cities are traditional and not evolving. Rawabi could attract many new residents and visitors as more and more unplanned Palestine cities are seen as unsustainable and chaotic, especially with the rise of urbanization. And finally, Rawabi plans to offer more affordable apartments to middle and upper middle class residents than Ramallah, and that is why some families have no choice but to consider Rawabi as their next home.
Another key issue area that impacts Rawabi's overall viability is its livability factor. To be a successful city, Rawabi needs to create employment for the subordinate Palestinian population that has faced significant underemployment in Israel. As the project is in fruition, there is no sign of any significant foreign investments to create a labor market or specific industries within Rawabi itself. As a result, this becomes a pinnacle issue in which the majority underemployed population will continue to be part of the lower end of the social hierarchy. Currently, the poverty rate gap that exists between the Palestinian minority and the Israelis is quite significant, as the Palestinian poverty rate in 2010 was up towards 55% in comparison to the 22% that the Israeli population is facing. So this begs the question, is Bashar al-Masri placing too much emphasis upon spurring rapid development with the attraction of significant foreign investments by companies for its citizens? In continuation with the livability factor, it is also important to denote who this project is going to attract. With housing and the cost of living being unaffordable for the majority of the population, it also begs the question, is it really a settlement for the aggregate Palestinian population? According to recent statistical data, the GDP per capita for Palestinians is around $2,000, which clearly indicates that the project is not in line with the financial capabilities of the Palestinian people, as the cost of living far exceeds their aptitude for spending. In relation to the geopolitical factors of the project, Rawabi tries to establish the idea of spatial hegemony, in which power exercised by the Palestinian population is a signaling device to the Israelis that culturally and politically they have their own spatial entity. In addition to this idea of spatial hegemony, the narrative of neoliberal space creation develops peace between both the Palestinians and Israelis due to the creation of an elite class and increased cooperation on key issue areas such as water supply. However, it still remains to be seen how the project will affect future relations, as the Israelis have a level of control over Rawabi's main infrastructure developments such as water supply and road routes.
In 2014, the city of Rawabi, despite having plumbing and reservoir tanks all in place, lacked an agreement with the Israelis to bring water by pipeline through Israeli-occupied territory. This meant no water for Rawabi without an Israeli-issued water permit. Rawabi had to go through the Israeli-Palestinian Joint Water Committee, or JWC, to obtain water supplies. The committee hardly met during the 18-month period where Rawabi's water situation remained in limbo because neither side could agree on an agenda. The previous head of the Palestinian Water Authority refused to approve projects that would benefit the Jewish settlements in the West Bank, and Israel responded by refusing to approve Palestinian projects. Rawabi's water finally started to flow through its new pipeline in May of 2016, but there's only enough for about 5,000 residents, which is approximately 1/8 of the total Rawabi will need if the city is ever to be fully built. Solving the water problem not only took 18 months, but needed to be raised in the White House in meetings between President Barack Obama and Israel's Prime Minister twice. The effects of the water crisis were substantial financially as well. By the end of 2014, the water crisis had reached the point that 450 of 600 Rawabi apartment purchase contracts were cancelled. This led to a cash flow crisis where Masri was unable to collect $70 million from homeowners and mortgage banks for the 600 apartments.
Rawabi is funded by private sectors, including the private Bayati Real Estate Investment Company, which is owned by Masdar International, Batar Masdi's company, and Qatari Real Estate Company. Rawabi is designed to address the housing shortage and introduce a traditional mortgage system, something that the West Bank had previously lacked. Rawabi's mortgage system was intended to make housing more affordable for middle-class young professionals. Therefore, Rawabi's developers worked with banks to introduce mortgages for 25 years with a down payment of 15% and a lease-to-own program with a down payment of 7.5%.
To hear Bashar Masri describe it, Rawabi means many things to Palestinians, among them a powerful economic driver and an incredible symbol of nationhood. However, troubling questions remain on the livability of the city, whether or not the financing can be kept together for the city to be finished, and what the city will mean in the ongoing struggle against Israeli occupation. For now, the only answers are the same as for many new cities. We have to wait, and we'll see.